The bus rumbled to a stop, its engines sighing in relief as much as its passengers. Anna stepped off, her boots crunching on the frost-dusted road. The air hung heavy with the scent of pine and something else, a subtle underlying chill that seemed to emanate from Wintervale itself. She looked around at the quaint, snow-kissed town. It was picturesque, certainly, but an unsettling silence hung in the air, broken only by the wind whistling through the eaves of the buildings. A shiver ran down Anna's spine as she made her way towards the only sign of life, a flickering neon sign that read, "Willow's Weep Inn." The name seemed oddly fitting, she thought, as she pulled open the heavy oak door and stepped inside. The warmth of the inn enveloped her like a comforting embrace, a stark contrast to the icy grip of the town outside. She approached the counter, its surface worn smooth by time and countless forgotten tales. Behind it stood a man, his face a roadmap of wrinkles, each line telling a story of its own. His eyes, though, were what struck Anna the most, a piercing blue that seemed to look straight through her, reading her intentions before she even spoke them. The man's gaze didn't waver as he spoke, his voice a low rumble that seemed to echo the creaking of the inn itself. "We don't get many visitors this time of year, Miss Davies, especially not a young woman like yourself." Anna raised an eyebrow, a flicker of annoyance igniting within her. "Is there a problem with that?" He leaned forward, placing his hands on the counter, his long fingers interlaced. "No problem at all, Miss Davies. But perhaps you haven't heard of Wintervale's particular reputation?" Anna took a seat at the counter, her curiosity piqued. "I've heard whispers, stories of people vanishing without a trace. Whispers." The man chuckled, a dry, brittle sound. "They're not whispers, Miss Davies. They're warnings. Warnings about the Vanishing Trail that winds its way through the woods beyond the town. Folks go in, but they never come out. Not entirely." Sleep didn't come easily to Anna that night. The innkeeper's words, spoken with such conviction, echoed in her mind. The Vanishing Trail, he'd called it. A shiver ran down her spine. As a journalist, Anna had a nose for stories, and this one, shrouded in mystery and whispered warnings, was one she couldn't ignore. The next morning, as she was collecting her belongings, she noticed a plain white envelope slipped beneath her door. Curiosity piqued. She picked it up and tore it open. The message inside was brief, scrawled in elegant cursive. There was no signature, no indication of who had sent it, but the message was clear. Someone knew why she was here, and they wanted her to follow the trail. The full moon hung heavy in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows that danced and writhed like living things. Anna took a deep breath and stepped past the town's edge into the waiting embrace of the woods. The woods were alive with the rustling of leaves and the snapping of twigs. Every sound made Anna jump, her heart pounding in her chest. The path, barely discernible in the darkness, was marked by strange symbols carved into the bark of the trees. They were unlike anything she had ever seen, a combination of spirals, runes, and what looked like ancient hieroglyphs. As she ventured deeper, she noticed a faint light flickering through the trees ahead. A sense of foreboding washed over her, but her journalistic curiosity urged her forward. The light led her to a clearing, where a lone figure stood holding a lantern aloft. The figure was shrouded in a dark cloak, their face obscured by the shadows. Anna hesitated for a moment, unsure whether to approach or turn back, but the figure motioned her forward with a gloved hand, and she found herself drawn towards the mysterious stranger. Section 5. The Ritual at the Heart of the Woods. As Anna drew closer, she realized the clearing was not empty, as she had initially thought. A group of figures, their faces hidden by dark hoods, stood in a circle around a large flat stone. In the center of the stone, a crystal pulsed with an otherworldly light, casting an ethereal glow over the assembled figures. They were chanting, their voices low and guttural, the sound both mesmerizing and terrifying. Anna watched in horrified fascination as the crystal on the stone pulsed brighter, the chanting reaching a fever pitch. She felt a strange pull towards the light, an urge to step into the circle and join the hooded figures. Just as she took a step forward, a hand shot out from the shadows, clamping over her mouth. She struggled against the iron grip, but it was no use. Her vision swam, the chanting fading into a distant drone as darkness enveloped her. Anna awoke to a cold, damp sensation, as though she was submerged in icy water. She sat up with a gasp, her eyes widening in disbelief at the sight before her. Gone were the familiar woods of Wintervale. In their place stretched a desolate landscape shrouded in perpetual twilight. The air hung heavy with a strange, oppressive energy, and the only sounds were the rustling of unseen creatures and the distant echoes of whispers that sent shivers down her spine. She was surrounded by shadows, their forms shifting and swirling as if they were alive, and within those shadows she saw glimpses of faces she recognized from the missing person posters plastered around Wintervale. They reached out to her, their eyes filled with a mixture of hope and despair, their voices echoing with a longing for escape. Anna stumbled back, her heart pounding in her chest. She had stumbled into a nightmare, a realm of shadows and lost souls, and she had a sinking feeling that she was trapped. Panic threatened to consume her, but Anna forced herself to breathe, to think rationally. She remembered the symbols carved into the trees, the strange language that seemed to whisper of forgotten magic. Perhaps they held the key to escaping this shadowy prison. She closed her eyes, focusing on the symbols, trying to recall their intricate details. As she did, she felt a presence beside her, a comforting warmth that seemed to push back the encroaching shadows. She opened her eyes to see a young woman standing before her, her features obscured by a soft light. "This place feeds on fear," the woman said, her voice a gentle whisper. "To escape, you must confront what terrifies you most." Anna's heart pounded against her ribs. Her deepest fear, the one she kept buried deep within, rose to the surface like a drowning thing. She closed her eyes, bracing herself, and whispered, "I'm afraid of being forgotten, of disappearing without a trace, just like them." When Anna opened her eyes, she was back in the woods, the familiar scent of pine filling her lungs. The full moon still hung high in the sky, casting its eerie glow over the trees. She stumbled to her feet, her head spinning, her body aching as though she had been run over by a truck. The events of the night played in her mind like a fever dream, the hooded figures, the glowing crystal, the realm of shadows. Had it been real? Or had her imagination run wild? She stumbled back towards Wintervale, her mind racing. As she approached the town's edge, a sense of dread washed over her. The streets were deserted, the houses dark and empty. Not a single soul could be seen. The only sound was the wind whistling through the empty streets, carrying with it a chill that seemed to cut to the bone. She had escaped the shadow realm, but at what cost? Wintervale was deserted, abandoned, as though everyone had simply vanished into thin air. And deep down, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that a part of her was still trapped in that shadowy realm, forever linked to the missing souls she had encountered there. Exhausted and shaken to her core, Anna made her way back to the Willow's Weep Inn. The door creaked open as if beckoning her inside. The familiar warmth of the inn did little to dispel the icy dread that had settled in her bones. She collapsed onto a chair, her mind a maelstrom of questions and half-formed answers. Just then, she noticed a plain white envelope resting on the table beside her, its presence both unsettling and strangely familiar. With trembling hands, she picked it up and opened it, her heart pounding in her chest. "The shadows are never far, Anna. They remember, and they will be waiting." The words were scrawled in the same elegant cursive as before. But this time, there was something different. A single delicate feather, as black as night, lay nestled within the folds of the paper. Anna shuddered, a cold shiver running down her spine. The shadows hadn't finished with her yet. Her story, it seemed, was far from over.